Hi, I'm Graeme Goodings. Thanks so much for giving up your time and sharing it with me. But I can assure you, if you spend the next 60 minutes with us, you will end up being a better communicator and a better public speaker. And it is so important in life in this day and age. I have been in this industry as a broadcaster, public speaker, MC, keynote speaker, radio presenter for many, many decades. And what I've learned in that time is the people who get on best in life, both professionally and personally, are also the best communicators, those that can get across their ideas better than any other. Conversely, and you've all seen them, you know some very intelligent, very clever people, very well-educated people who just seem to struggle in the game of life because they cannot express themselves as well as they possibly could. And that is sad to see, because the ability to communicate is one of the great gifts in life. But I'm here to tell you one of the most exciting things is that anyone, and I mean anyone, can learn to be a good public speaker. I've had people come up to me and say, oh yeah, well, it's all right for you. You know, you've been in the business for years, you're an extrovert. Well, no, I'm not. I'm actually an introvert. I could never do it. I could never put myself in that position. Well, you can. Anyone can learn to be a better communicator, a better public speaker. It's like riding a bike or learning to cook. You can all do it. Now, some will succeed to a greater level than others. If you work hard at public speaking, you can become great. If you just want to be good at it, well, you don't have to work quite as hard. So, spending the time here today, I hope you will, at the end of it, find that it's worth the effort. The harder you work at it, the better you'll get at it. If I could just share a story with you, some years ago, I taught a young man public speaking. And I would have to say that he was the shyest, most retiring person that I've ever had to deal with. He didn't want to do the public speaking course. It was the last thing on his mind, but his employer insisted. They said that you're in the public eye, you need to go out there and meet the public, you've got to learn to conquer your fears. So he set to work, and it was a long and arduous task that I must admit. Put him in front of a camera and he would look down, he would look away, he would mumble. He just found it very difficult to come to terms with. But work and work and work, and he gradually gained confidence. And to cut a long story short, a few years later, this same shy, retiring person was asked to speak in front of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. He had to speak in front of some of the world's great leaders and great orators and great speakers. And he performed with distinction. He got up there in front of thousands, millions of people internationally and delivered his message. And I was so proud to see that happen, considering where he came from. And that convinced me that if he could do it, just about anyone could do it. So what is it that stops people from taking that next step? And I ask you, and if you'd like to ask a question in the chat box, please do. Why do you not want to take the next step when it comes to public speaking? And I can tell you that it really comes down to a four-letter word, and it's called fear. Now, while people are formulating their questions, I just want to tell you that I asked before this webinar for people to email me, text me, and send me messages on social media, questions about public speaking and regarding fear. And let's see, one of the questions is from Anne, an email, or not a question. She said, why do I fear public speaking? The fear of embarrassment, the fear of being rejected. Alan says, I don't have anything interesting to say. Mike says, I'm just terrified that I'll forget what I have to say. And that is the current theme or common theme. Does that affect you that way? Or do you have other fears? I'd like to hear them. Please let us know. We'll have a Q&A session a little bit later on, and you can ask your questions then, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. But if you are fearful, don't hide away in your cocoon. Believe me, you are not alone. Who fears public speaking? Have a look at this list. Arnie Schwarzenegger, Harrison Ford, Princess Diana, Margaret Thatcher, Prince Harry, Richard Branson. It doesn't end there. Mahatma Gandhi, Tiger Woods, Warren Buffett, Julia Roberts, Samuel Jackson. others that I haven't mentioned. The list goes on. And do you think they would have been as successful had they hadn't overcome their fear of public speaking? We might not have heard of these people. They had to learn to conquer that fear or to control it. You may not eliminate the fear altogether, but you can control it. And these people learnt to control their fear. Here's a face that you recognise, Jerry Seinfeld. Now, I don't think he could ever be accused of being fearful when it comes to public speaking, but he did have something very interesting to say when it comes to public speaking. According to most studies, a person's number one fear is public speaking. Number two is death. Jerry said, death is number two? Well, this means that to the average person, if you go to a funeral, you'd be better off in the casket than delivering the eulogy. Now, you might get a laugh out of that, but it is true, isn't it? I've actually spoken to people who've said they would do anything, rather than have to get up on their feet and speak. And someone said to me, I would rather jump into a pool full of sharks than get up and start talking to people. Well, here's some quick tips for you. Here's some things that you can do to alleviate the problem of the fear of public speaking. Firstly, learn that it is okay to be nervous. Don't think that you are totally unique because you are nervous. You're not. I've expressed that factor that, in fact, research shows that 74% of people have some form of performance anxiety when it comes to public speaking. But firstly, learn it's okay to be nervous. It's how to deal with those nerves is the issue. Learn to make eye contact. Another thing, a lot of people say, oh, I can talk to people, but I can't look them in the eye. Well, we've all had this experience. If you talk to someone and they never look you in the eye, you think, can I trust this person? What are they hiding? What's their problem? So you have to learn to make eye contact. And that is a way of establishing a person's confidence. Someone that knows that you're prepared to look them in the eye knows that you're probably speaking the truth. Be a giver, not a taker. What does that actually mean? Be a giver, not a taker. Well, so many people express the feeling why they have fear is that, what if I forget my lines? What if I stumble when I go out to speak at the lectern? What if I drop my notes? What if they don't like me? You've noticed the trend here? It's all about me. What if I? What if? What you have to do is turn it around and think, what am I providing for the audience? What information do I have that will make their lives better? What can I tell them that will generate interest and concern in life? How can I influence them? At the end of this speech, how will they be better off? Notice that's turned around, so you're not thinking about me, it's you. So being a giver, not a taker, is vitally important. Breathe and speak slowly. So many people say to me, Graeme, what do you mean breathe? That we always breathe? Yes, we do always breathe. But when we become nervous and anxious, we tend to have shorter breaths, we speak faster, our voice goes up, and we lose all sense of control. So breathe and speak more slowly. If you speak more slowly, you have time to collect your thoughts. You don't get ahead of yourself. If you speak slowly, you sound like you're in control, as opposed to sounding like someone who's out of control. Focus on positive reaction. Now, if you're speaking to a group, and this can be a group of 2 or 3 people or an audience of 50 or 100, when you're speaking, look around for positive reaction in the audience. Someone who is nodding with you or smiling when you say something that's amusing. Look for that positive reaction. Ignore the negative reaction. I remember once giving a talk and I thought it's really going well. They're really enjoying it. And I looked down and in the second row was this gentleman whose head down and he was sound asleep. What impact do you think that had on me? But I didn't dwell on it because if I had, I would have dropped my bundle. I would have thought, what's the point of this? So I looked around and sure enough, there were other people in the audience who were actually enjoying what I had to say. So focus on the positive reaction. A very important thing to remember is the audience want you to succeed. Too many people say, oh, look, they're just waiting for me to make a mistake. They're just waiting for me to slip up. No, they're not. If you give up your time to listen to a public speaker, you want them to be good. If you're giving up an hour or so of your time, You want to be entertained, informed, educated and persuaded. You don't go out there thinking, I hope this isn't the waste of my life. I hope I'm going to sit here and be bored stupid. No. So the moment you walk out on stage, assume that the audience want you to be good, and they do. And when you go out there with that attitude, guess what? You'll be way more confident. Excuse me while I have a glass of water. Excuse me. And the benefits of better public speaking. Well, professionally, increased confidence, job opportunities, that leads to higher salary. That's not a bad thing, is it? On a personal level, greater self-esteem, stronger communication skills, more fulfilling relationships. All pluses, and this is all born out of being a better public speaker. And employers want employees with excellent communication skills. Many people say, look, the job I have doesn't require me to be able to speak in public. Well, we're not talking here about necessarily getting up and addressing a crowd of 50 people or standing at a lectern. It could be in a retail setting, speaking to some prospective customers, clients. Most aspects of life, work life, mean that you have to be able to communicate well. Let's take a look at this case study. We have on the one hand Sam and Joe. Sam has a bachelor degree in civil engineering. Joe has a bachelor degree in civil engineering. Sam's been employed for 2 years. Joe was employed at the same time, both working for the same company. A vacancy came up. Now, in this time, both of them incredibly well qualified. One of them always put their hand up when something had to be said in public, a policy had to be delivered, an assessment of what is happening in the company had to be done. One person put their hand up every single time. The other person said, no, I'll leave it to Sam. Project manager job came up. It went to Sam. Are we surprised? Not at all. Sam had the qualifications, as did Joe, but Sam also had communication skills. And in his particular job, project management, team collaboration, client-customer interaction, instruction and training, negotiation and persuasion. All skills that require a good communicator. Now, that might not be relevant to your job, those particular skills, but there will be somewhere in the job that you have an interaction needed, a communication skill with the public. You saw this man just before. Who is it? How good's your memory? It's Warren Buffett. Why is he interesting, unique or unusual, other than the fact that he used to be terrified of public speaking? Well, this man, one Warren Buffett, is rather wealthy. In fact, he's worth $118 billion. Let's put that in perspective. It sounds a lot, but where does it factor in the scale of things? Well, let's take Australia's richest people. You have Gina Rinehart, you have Clive Palmer, you have Harry Triguboff, you have James Packer, Anthony Pratt. We'll put all their billions together, all of them, and it doesn't add up to what Warren Buffett's $118 million adds up to. An awful lot of money. Now, I hear you saying, well, so what? Money isn't everything. No, it isn't everything. But when you consider where Warren Buffett came from, he was terrified of public speaking to the extent that he would physically vomit if he had to get up and speak. When he went to college, he deliberately took classes that didn't require public speaking. At some stage in his life, he thought, this is ridiculous. I'm going to have to do something about it. So he went and enrolled in a Dale Carnegie public speaking course. He succeeded, and that set him on the trail of success. In Warren Buffett's office is one certificate on the wall. Now, he's been presented with honorary doctorates and degrees from all around the world, but only one plaque adorns his wall. It's the Dale Carnegie course in public speaking. He said it is the most valuable, most important investment he ever made. Public speaking, according to Warren Buffett, is the one skill that will raise your value by 50%. Think about that over your lifetime. It will raise your value, give you greater opportunities. 50% is that figure. It's certainly worthy investment, isn't it? Look, after the Q&A, and this is a little incentive, and thank you so much for taking part today, I have a free gift for you. Now, I know that's a tautology. If it's free, it's obviously a gift. If it's a gift, it must be free. But we say free gift. Story for another day. And the free gift, or the gift, is my ebook, 25 Quick Tips on Public Speaking. It will help you conquer your fears. It will help you become an influential communicator. It will help you tell stories and to sell your message. It'll help you inform, entertain, and persuade. And it's in this simple book. And it's yours for the asking, and it will be free, as I said, and I'll tell you how it will be yours a little bit later on. To 3 tips that will instantly make you a better public speaker. But before I give you those 3 tips, I want to ask you this question that you need to ask of yourself before you give a presentation. What is the purpose of your presentation's message? There are 4 key reasons: to inform, to entertain, to persuade, or to inspire. You can pick one or a combination of 2, or if you're particularly adventurous, you can pick all 4 and incorporate them in your speech. But you certainly need to pick one. What am I out to achieve here? Do I want to inform? Do I want to educate? Do I want to persuade? Do I want to inspire? And when you've got that framework, then you can take the next step on putting your speech together. Now, back to the 3 tips that will instantly make you a better public speaker. One of them is drink plenty of water, clear your throat. Apologies for that. Okay, the 3 key tips. Preparation. Now, good speeches don't just happen. You may know your subject well, but that doesn't mean you could still sell your story without practice. Now, as a little story here, a businessman that I came to know ran a big national company, very successful. The business was thriving. He knew his business back to front, knew everything about it, was often called to speak in public. He was lousy at it. Why? Because he thought he knew it all. Well, he did know it all. He knew all about his business and how to run his business, but he didn't know how to communicate that to the general public. So when he got up to sell his message, tell his story, he would just get out there and rattle out a lot of information. He didn't have a core message. He didn't know where to begin, where to end. So he didn't have the speech in a palatable format. It was Mark Twain that once said, if you want me to speak for an hour, I can speak right now. But if you want me to speak for 15 minutes, give me a couple of weeks to prepare. And that is the essence of it, isn't it? Because you may know everything about your subject, but if you have to distill it into 15 minutes, can you do it? It takes a lot of work. A lot of work to pick out the 3 or 4 key messages, distill those messages, make it interesting and palatable, end with a call to action. So this gets us to the preparation. You need to research your subject. You need to research your audience. Who are you going to actually be speaking to? What is the demographic? What are their interests? Do they know much about my subject? Do I have to treat them as beginners or as people who already know pretty much about what I'm on about? You have to do this research beforehand. With that information in mind, then you write your speech. I'm happy for you to write it out, but that is only a guideline. Excuse me again. That is only a guideline, preparation, because once you write it out, remember you've written it out, and that is for the eye, not the ear. And when we're listening to someone talk, it sounds very, very different indeed. So different, in fact, that it won't be interesting to people. So write out your speech longhand, then condense it to key points, dot points. And then when you give your speech, you deliver it talking about 1 dot point. When you've delivered that message, move on to 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and so forth. Dot points. I remember, and this probably harks back to the fact that about knowing your audience, the story of this young skateboarder who achieved international success. Excuse me again. He achieved international success as a skateboarder, and he was much in demand as a public speaker. But he made the mistake of not doing his research, and he was asked to speak at this organisation. And when he turned up, international skateboarder, no one in the audience was under the age of 60. So what relevance did a skateboarder have talking to this group of people? And as you can imagine, the speech went over like a lead balloon. Now, with a bit of research, he could have still talked to the same group of people, but taken a totally different tack. What could he have done, you ask? Well, all right, he's a skateboarder. Surely among these people in the audience, they would have children or grandchildren that like skateboarding. So that could have been his line of attack. That's what he could have said. Ladies and gentlemen, great to be here. How many of you have kids or grandkids who love skateboarding? All of a sudden, oh, yes, I do. No, I don't. Oh, where are we going with this? Then the next question, how many of you have fears that it's a dangerous sport or it's a waste of time? I could or should, they should be doing something else. All of a sudden, you've got the audience actually listening to what you're saying. Oh, now this is relevant. I've got a young nephew. He's a skateboarder. I worry that he's wasting his life away and he could get hurt. Then you sort of say, well, look at it. Look at me. I now make tens of thousands of dollars as a skateboarder and on the talk circuit. Here we have, all of a sudden, made skateboarding relevant to people over the age of 60. It takes a bit of work, but it can be done. The same with any subject. So in preparation, do your research, know your audience, and know their interests. Then we get the practice. And this is the element that many people say to me, oh, yeah, can we do without the practice? No, you can't. Practice. If you've done all the preparation, you've done all the hard work, if you don't practice it, you might as well be wasting your time. You might as well be wasting your time. I was going to say something that was not really relevant. We might have had to bleep it out. But you need to practice. And the experts will tell you that you need to practice possibly 30 hours for a 1 hour talk. That's right, 30 hours for a 1 hour talk. That's 15 hours for a half hour talk. You might say, look, I'll never do that. Well, that's fine. You don't need to do that much preparation. But if you do that much preparation, you'll be that much better. So preparation is key. And how do you do that? With practice. Practice in front of a mirror. That's pretty good. What is better is practicing with a smartphone. We all have smartphones. And if you set up the smartphone on video to record you, you'll be amazed what you get back out of it. You'll deliver your talk and it's all going well and good and you're pretty happy with it. And you look back at it and you go, I didn't realise I ummed and ahed so much. I didn't realise that I waved around. I didn't realise I was reading from my notes. I didn't realise I was going so fast. So here is a wonderful way of finding out exactly what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. You take out of that, not to and ah as much, to slow down, to not sway from side to side, to not read notes, then do it again. Is it improved? Yes, it has. No, it hasn't. You keep going until it gets better and better. It's also good, too, to have somebody who can watch and critique your speech. Don't be too sensitive about it if they say, oh, it was a bit boring. You learn from that because the practice that you put in, you get the rewards later when you actually do it. So we move on from practice to performance. Comes the big day. You've done all the preparation, you've done all the practice, and now you're going to actually get on your feet and deliver your first speech. How do you feel about it? Excited? Nervous? Fearful? Got a great tip a little bit later on for overcoming those nerves. A great tip, and I guarantee it will work for you. But firstly, with your performance, remember the words of humorist Will Rogers, who said, "You never get a second chance to make a first impression." And it's so true, isn't it? And we've all experienced this. You go to a party or something, you walk into a room and you look across the room and you see someone standing there talking to someone. And you notice the way they're moving and throwing their head around and laughing or whatever. And you almost immediately form an opinion of them. Oh, she seems like a nice person. He looks like he's up himself. And you form these impressions, you meet them later and you find out your first impressions might have been totally wrong. But the thing is, with first impressions, they're very hard to shake. As it is with public speaking. You are being assessed from the moment you are introduced. So when the person introducing you, if you're giving a speech, is, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Graeme Goodings." And you head down and you shuffle out to the stage like you're walking to the guillotine. And you get to the lectern and, "G'day everyone," and you get launched straight into it. No. Bad, bad, bad. You made a bad impression. No matter how good you are after that, you've lost them. You're going to take a long time to win them back. So when you're introduced, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Graeme Goodings." You smile. Your name has been called out. You stride to the stage, shoulders back. You look around the audience, step up to the lectern, and say nothing. That's right, you pause. You step up to the lectern. You look around the audience, pick out a few faces, nod, smile. This can take 4 or 5 seconds. Don't worry about it. That is good. Because that shows the audience that you're self-assured, you're confident. They're almost ready to believe that whatever you say must be right. If you project that, you've got them in the palm of your hand to start with. That pause before you start talking makes them think, "Oh, what's to come?" They're ready and they're primed. And they know that you are totally in control. You have the audience in the palm of your hand. And then you begin to talk. And then, in that performance, become very aware of what is happening, how they're reacting. Although, when you're giving a talk, it's one way, it is still a conversation. Because you're getting feedback, but it's a visual feedback. So look around the audience, see how they're responding. And a little tip I have, if people are responding well to something you're saying, and they're laughing along or giggling along or enjoying something you're saying, tease out the story a little bit more. Tease it out. They're enjoying it. Go with the flow. Conversely, if you're delivering part of your speech and you notice that people are starting to shuffle and look down and check their phones, oh, this is not a way to go. So wrap up fairly quickly that point, then move on to the next one. You need to be responsive to what your audience is doing. Be responsive to the way they are reacting. As I said, it's a conversation. You have to keep it in that realm. And don't forget, you've got a Q&A coming up. We're going to talk about that very shortly. And what you're delivering to them, they're going to be able to bounce back on you. But performance is so important. And at the end of the talk, go around and ask people, "What did you think? Did I leave out anything you'd like me to talk about? What could I have done to make that a better experience for you?" And don't be too proud to take on the chin that, well, maybe it wasn't as good as you thought it would be. But I guarantee you that you seek that feedback and work it into the next time you're in a talk situation, you will be better for it. So it's a give and take thing. Preparation, practice, and performance. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about the Q&A at some length here. Never underestimate the Q&A that comes at the end of your talk. So many people that I have dealt with have got a rude shock. They've done all the preparation, all the practice, they've performed well in their talk, only to be undone by the Q&A because they've done no work for it. For some reason they think, well, I know my subject, I've delivered the talk, now any questions? And they get floored by the questions because the questions take them outside the parameters of their talk. They just don't know where to go with it. So treat the Q&A very seriously. And it's good, once again, in your practice and preparation, to get someone to listen to your speech or talk and then come up with some questions for you and just throw them in, see how you handle them. You have to know more about your subject than what you're just talking about. If all you know about your talk is encapsulated within that talk, you can't expand on it, can you? You can't make it broader. So know way more about your subject than what you divulge during your talk. So in the Q&A, it can be a minefield. You have to be very, very careful the way you handle a Q&A. A couple of little tips here. When you're asked a question, repeat it. Now this serves two purposes. Usually, unless it's in a big auditorium and it's highly organised and they have people running around with microphones, if someone asks a question over here, you might hear it, but the audience over here hear nothing. You end up answering a question, they're going, well, what's that about? So you repeat the question, paraphrase it if need be. You repeat the question. Is that what you're asking? Everyone has heard the question. Then you can give your answer. That's one purpose. The second purpose is by repeating the question, you give yourself time, you buy some time to formulate your answer in your head. Instead of having to just go fire straight off an answer, you've got a little bit of time. And then you can deliver your answer. Another thing with a Q&A that you have to be very, very careful about is don't wing it. Just because people have come along to hear you speak, if someone asks a question that, well, you're not really sure of the answer, but I'll wing it. Don't ever do that. Big mistake. Often, it can be a gotcha question. Someone in the audience will actually know the answer or know more about the subject than you do. Be humble and honest and say, look, that is a great question, but unfortunately, that's outside my level of expertise, or that's something that I'll have to do some research on. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. I will seek out the answer and get back to you later. That's what you do. You do not, by any means, wing it. That is dangerous, very dangerous. What about the heckler? Well, I can honestly say in many, many decades of giving talks, I wouldn't even need one hand to count the number of hecklers. You have to be very careful with dealing with someone who's just being a smartass. You have to be careful if they say something that's funny and the audience laughs. Be very wary about trying to top it. Some comedians love hecklers. They absolutely love them because they throw the lines back and it's to and fro and it's very funny. It can be a bit embarrassing if somebody throws a line at you and it gets a big laugh and you throw a line back at them. Silence. Crickets. Don't get into the to and fro of trying to be funnier than the person who interjects. If it is funny at your expense, laugh with the audience. Take it on board. The audience will respect you for that. Don't get defensive about it. And if the heckler is being somewhat offensive, you take the moral high ground. Stay calm, stay in control, and say, look, I appreciate your input, but we need to move on. And you will find 99 times out of 100, the audience will be totally with you, and they will just put enough pressure by just staring at the person that has interjected that they'll make them very quiet and they won't respond. So hecklers need to be dealt with, but be very careful and don't get into a slanging match with them. It is not a good thing to do. The Q&A is a great vehicle to get some interaction with your audience. But a little tip here, with the question, at the start say, do you have any questions? Better to start with, I know you have questions, who would like to go first? Now, invariably, as happens in a lot of cases, the audience are very slow to warm to questions. They might have questions, but they'll wait for someone to go first. So you have some questions prepared. Do you have any questions, or what questions do you have? Look, while you're thinking of them, one question that I'm often asked is, and you lead into it. And usually that generates a question after that. But you have to control the Q&A. And be very mindful also in a Q&A session that comes at the end of your speech. Don't wrap up the Q&A, say, oh, well, no further questions. Well, thanks for that. Thank you very much for your attendance. Good night. No, you've dropped the ball. That is totally the wrong way to go about it. Have a prepared ending. If you're smart on your feet, use what was in the Q&A, wrap that up and condense it. Well, as you heard from what I was saying and the reaction here tonight, this and this, we're going to go and do such and such, and we're going to protect the environment, we're going to do this. So you wrap it up and encapsulate it, wrap up your speech, and have a call to action. So everyone, thank you for coming along tonight. And we have a big decision to make on the weekend, so think carefully before you vote and vote only once, or something like that. But end your speech on a high. You take back control from the Q&A session. But Q&As are very important. Don't underestimate them. Okay, speaking of Q&As, what questions do you have? And we have, and there is an element of delay here, so some of the questions are coming through slowly. But Captain Rod Lovell, Rod says, I normally drive for 1.5 hours to an event. I use that time in the car, listening and singing loudly to 70s music. When I arrive, I'm pumped and I have my vocal cords ready. That is excellent, Rod. I thought you were going to say you practice and rehearse your speech, which is also a good thing to do. But yeah, look, you've got to find ways and things that work for you. Some people like total silence before they have a speaking engagement. They don't want to be interrupted. Others like music. Sports people do it. You know, put the cans on, listen to music and wah, wah, wah. Rod gets pumped up for his by listening and singing loudly to 70s music. I'll tell you what I do if I've got a speaking engagement. I usually run through it. And in fact, a talk I give often over the years is my life in the media. You know, from the early radio days to television and internet and beyond. Now, I've given this talk 1,000 times, but I refresh it in my brain because there'll be certain key dates and key things that often I'll think, oh yeah, when did I move from Melbourne to Adelaide? When did I go into television and leave radio? And if in the speech you're searching for these times and dates and so forth, it just takes the edge off what you're doing. I will, in the car, particularly if it's a 30, 40-minute drive, set off and deliver my speech, pretty much, and then do a phantom Q&A. What sort of questions could I be asked? How will I answer them? So there's never a time, a downtime. So whether you use that time going to a speech to gee yourself up by listening to music or rehearsing your speech, it's all a good thought to do. I asked for questions on email leading up to this event. Kate says, I'd love to know more about how to handle situations in public speaking when an audience member railroads you and tries to throw you off or disagrees with something you've said. I've had this happen before in my line of work. It rattled me a bit. Well, Kate, yeah, I can understand it would, but with the right preparation, you can stay in command of the situation. And that is the key. No matter what happens in a Q&A during your speech or whatever, you are at the lectern, at the podium or whatever, you are in control. But whatever happens, you must treat the audience with respect. If someone heckles or railroads you, don't be dismissive. They're there, they've given you the courtesy, listen to you. Now they've tried to railroad your speech maybe, and you think, well, this is not the right way to go. Still listen to what they have to say. They might have some very valid points. So listen to it carefully. And then if you disagree, say, well, thank you for your input, but I think this, this and this. Or, look, you know, we'll take that on board and I'll get back to you on that matter. But keep it fairly short, because if they're taking it in a direction that you don't want it to go, you have to be firm but fair. Say, well, thank you very much for that. I think we've dealt enough with that aspect. It's time for other questions. And most people will be totally reasonable with that. But you are the one in control, Kate. Make sure that you respect their perspective, thank them for resharing or sharing their thoughts, and then you get back on track, take control again. Another question from Leanne. I've heard it's a good idea to check out the venue beforehand. Now, Leanne, this is I should have mentioned it, but it is so true. You don't want to turn up to an event and you've done all the preparation and practice and you're ready to perform, and oh, hang on, there's no lectern, there's no lighting, there's no, you know, the audience. How the audience going to hear me? Where am I going to put my notes? You check out the venue beforehand, and I can speak of this, and it doesn't look well on me, but after many years of public speaking and hosting events and emceeing, I was asked to host this particular charity event, and it was being held in a famous hotel that had an underground cellar area, and this was a huge cellar area. It was, you know, quite amazing, and it was to be down there for about 200 people. And I turned up on the night, and I had a sheaf of notes, a whole pile of notes, because there were awards to hand out and so forth. So it wasn't a matter of committing things to memory. So I turned up there and looked around the venue, and I said, "Oh, where do you want me to speak from? Where's the lectern?" "Oh, we haven't got a lectern." "Oh, okay. Where will it be?" "Well, over in that corner there." Are there any lights?" And I mean, this is what was formerly a cellar, so there's just, mood lighting effectively. And embarrassing in the extreme, I ended up doing the whole show with my smartphone turned on, the torch, reading the notes. How embarrassing. Now, it wasn't the venue's fault. You can't say, "Oh, well, they should have provided you with this, and this." I didn't ask for it. I didn't ask what they had. If I'd said, "Look, I'll need a lectern, I'll need lights," I mean, I had a microphone, but that was it. Now, this is on you. If you're speaking at an event, ask the questions. It's a good idea to turn up maybe a day before the event and check it out. Check out what the sound's like. Check out microphone. Check out seating. Check out where there's a lectern. I mean, if you've got lots of notes and there's no lectern, makes life very difficult. But it is on you to ask those questions. Don't assume or expect anything. So thank you, Leanne. That's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. David Q. I am very extroverted. Do I need to roll it back a bit? Well, being an extrovert is a real advantage in public speaking because you're already one step ahead. You're happy to speak in public. You're happy to have people hear your voice. But you've got to be very, very careful, David, because your voice might be a bit bombastic and over the top. You have to, wind it back a little bit. It can be a real advantage being an extrovert because we're not going to have to pull you out of your shell. But be mindful of the audience. Use the skills and ability you have, but be very mindful that being over the top can also seem to be a bit insincere. And this is where, and I mentioned earlier about introverts being really good public speakers. Introverts rarely come across as being insincere because before you can get an introvert up to speak, they will think long and hard about what they're going to say. They'll think long and hard about whether this will have a positive or negative impact on people. So an introvert with the right practice can develop into a fine speaker, as can an extrovert, but for different reasons. So that's a great question, David. An extrovert, do I need to roll it back a bit? Yeah, just roll it back just a little. Any other questions here? We have Colin. What do I do if I forget what to say during a speech? Well, Colin, I assume you've got notes or dot points, and you've got those. But if you've got a stream of thinking, and we all do it, you're off on a tangent, and then all of a sudden it dries up. It happens to even the most experienced speaker. So what do you do? Well, one thing is not a bad thing to do is pause, reach for a glass of water, take a sip, because we all need to do that, as you've seen. In that time, you might get back on track. If not, don't worry if you pick up at a different point. Don't forget, the audience don't have a script in front of them of what you're about to say. So if you've lost that train of thought, move on to your next point and deliver that. It might come back to you and you can go back to it a little bit later on, but don't be fearful of stuffing up, messing up. In fact, I found a lot of very, very experienced and good speakers throw in a deliberate stuff up, because they're delivering their speech and it's all going very nice and swimmingly and that's all a bit formal, and they throw in this little blunder. The audience laughs, it breaks the ice, and they're communicating. It's working really well. So never be fearful of a bit of a stuff up, a stumble. The trick is you move on from it. If you stumble and you keep thinking, "Oh, but when I did that, no, that was awful," you'll make another stumble. So if you make a mistake, just press on, move on to the next point, and don't worry. And 9 times out of 10, the audience will be with you. I mean, they don't want you to be like an automaton. Someone said to me once, "If I practice and practice enough, will I be perfect?" Well, I've got some sad news for people who think if they practice enough at public speaking, they'll be perfect. No one ever has delivered the perfect speech. It just doesn't happen. It's not that kind of animal. Don't let perfect get in the way of better. You can always become better at what you do, and when it comes to public speaking, you'll get better and better and better. You won't be perfect. And if you are perfect, the problem with that is perfection. If you deliver it absolutely perfectly and the words come out absolutely wonderfully, you'll start to sound one of those robocalls. So you don't want that. You want to sound like a human being, because what we're talking about here is communication. And if you're not communicating, what's the point? You've got to communicate. So, Colin, where did we get to? Oh, yes, if you forget during the speech, got sidetracked a little, didn't we? Take a deep breath. Look around your audience. Give them a pause. Pauses are great. Scan your notes, or the slide, if you're working to slides. It might give you a cue. Maintain your composure. Stay in control. As I said, the audience don't know. They don't have a script in front of them to, oh, he should have said that, he didn't say this. You are in control of the show. So no matter what happens, actually one of the worst things that can happen, here's a little tip. You've got a sheaf full of notes, okay? And you're up on the stage and all of a sudden you drop them to the floor and they go, pfft. Well, that'll get a laugh. You can go with that. And you put the notes back up on the desk and you don't know which is next. The trick here is to always number the pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you can get them back in order. Too many people have got a wad full of notes. They're not numbered. They don't know where they are. It all falls apart. It gets ugly. Number your notes. Okay. Rod again. Yes, Rod. When accepting an invitation, my return email contains my bio and also my requirements, re-screen, mic, etc. That way everyone is in the loop. Rod, that is an excellent advice. Excellent advice. And when I'm asked to speak somewhere, they're the questions I ask. What is the audience like? What are their interests? What are you expecting from me? How long do you want me to talk? Questions like, and a microphone. Will there be a microphone? Will there be a lectern? Those are the sort of questions. And what areas don't you want me to cover? There might be some very sensitive areas that you might throw in as a funny line and they'd take you aside later and say, oh, wish you hadn't said that. So that's great advice from Rod in your return email. And as Rod said, send your bio. That is excellent advice, because if someone introduces you and, all right, you're modest and you think, well, I'm not going to build myself up, and someone will introduce you and they might have the wrong information or they might use a lot of the material that you're going to use. So I suggest that if you're asked to speak somewhere, send a bio or send a suggested introduction. And you'd say to them, look, you don't have to use this, but it might help you. And I find many, many times that they will read that out verbatim. And it'll just be a background about you, what you've done, and a lead into what you're going to talk about. The more information you provide a venue with and the people with, the better the outcome. And after all, it's a performance from one end to the other. And people will appreciate it if you help them out, because often you might be speaking somewhere and they've not experienced this. So the more information you can give them about yourself and your needs and requirements, then they can come back and say, look, we can't do this or we can do that. Better off. Have we got time for how are we going for time? Yep, another question. Can you tell me again about nerves and how one feeling is the same as another? Yes, I can do that. I can do that, and I will do it a little bit later on. I'll just answer one more question from Isaac. I like speaking in public, and I'm confident at it, but I know I and ah a lot. What can I do? Yeah, that's true. The first thing is you'll never, ever, or very few of us, will ever rid ourselves entirely of umming and ahhing. It's just in our nature. But they're just filler words. They're there to take up space until you find what you actually really want to say. So, Isaac, what I'd say to you is don't lose sleep about it, but you can improve it and reduce the umming and ahhing. First tip I'd say is record your talk. Have a listen to it and be very mindful of when you, because you'll find that, gee, I didn't realize I did it that much. And listen to it. Why are you doing it? Are you speaking too fast? And this is often the case, that you're speaking faster. and your brain can't keep up, or your mouth can't keep up with your brain. So you throw in an or ah. So slow up your delivery. Take a breath here and there, and you'll find that with a slightly slower delivery, your brain has time to fill in the gaps. And and ahs are just that, just filler words. So Isaac, record yourself, practice, pause. Don't fill those spaces, but don't eat yourself alive if you do and ah, because sometimes you do it, and, oh, look, I've done it again. I shouldn't have done that. So a tip. If you have a handout, when should you give it out? Ah, right. That is a good question. A lot of us, when you give a speech or a talk on a particular subject, you print out, maybe not a copy of a speech, but you print out information associated with what you're talking about. Never give it out at the start of your talk. Never do that, because you know what's going to happen. They're all passed out, and you start your talk and you see people in the front row going, and they're not listening to you. It's like with a PowerPoint or keynote presentation, putting up lots of information on the screen behind you. You use those presentations very, very carefully, because if you don't, you'll find that people are just reading the information. Let's move on, as time's against us. The bonus tip to conquer nerves. Oh, firstly, a special offer for webinar attendees only before that bonus tip. And this is exclusive. Bear with me here. A one-on-one phone consultation session that I'm prepared to give you. I'm more than happy to do that. And in the session, speaking with me, you'll get public speaking concerns addressed. We'll give you customized feedback, and I'll help you with a strategy for success and answer any questions you have about public speaking or communication. And this is available to the first 20 applicants only. And if I could mention my public speaking course here just for a moment, 8 comprehensive modules. It's a special pre-launch offer. The course includes tips for confident and effective communication, overcoming stage fright, crafting compelling narratives, mastering body language, using visual aids effectively, handling Q&A sessions, and there'll be regular one-on-one online sessions. Engage and inspire audiences. The masterclass, just looking at the modules there, will cover every aspect of public speaking, and this is born out of the years that I've been involved with public speaking, things that I've learned over 40 years or more that you can learn in a few short hours. And module 5, 6, 7 and 8 modules that you can go through at your own rate. And the special offer for webinar attendees only, first 20 people who enroll for the free one-on-one session will also get a 20% discount on the public speaking course. But believe me, you're under no obligation to take it up. Look, the free one-on-one phone call might be enough for you, and that is fine. To enroll, webinars@goodinningsmedia.com.au. As Warren Buffett said, are you prepared to invest in your success? Now, the offer, 8 comprehensive modules, a special introductory price, $995 or 6 payments of $185 for the first 20 applicants only. For more information or to enroll, webinars@goodinningsmedia.com.au. Are you prepared to invest in your success? That's the question you have to ask yourself. You might find that you've got enough out of today. You might find enough in the one-on-one aspect of it. You might find that the book I'm sending you is enough, and that's good too. But you need to ask yourself these particular questions. Do I want to motivate others? Do I want to boost my confidence, develop my critical thinking skills, and create a lasting impact? And really, it's up to you how serious you are about improving your public speaking skills. So if you are, register now for a free one-on-one consult, webinars@goodinningsmedia.com.au. And this limited offer extends to the first 20 people who enroll for the free one-on-one course will also get a 20% discount on the public speaking course. 8 comprehensive modules, that price is down to $795 or 6 payments of $145. And there is a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you start the course and think, no, it's not working for me, that's fine. And once again, that is the web address. The bonus tip, I raced through that because you didn't tune in here just to get a story on my course, did you? But I told you about it anyway. The bonus tip to conquer your nerves. Now, this is interesting. This is something I found out some time ago. Tell me this, nerves versus excitement. What is the difference between feeling nervous and feeling excited? Well, when you're nervous, what do you feel? What happens to you? Your heart races. You breathe more quickly. You feel edgy. What about when you're excited? What are the symptoms? Well, your heart races, sweaty palms, your voice rises, you feel edgy. Notice something similar? That the way your body is reacting to nerves and excitement is absolutely identical. The only difference is the label you put on it. Now, you can influence your brain here. What you need to do is, instead of, I'm about to speak, oh, I really feel nervous about this, what you say is, I'm about to speak, I feel really excited about this. Put a different label on it, and it is amazing how much control you take back of yourself. Sports people do it all the time. You know, were you nervous before you jumped in the water for the 100 metres freestyle? No, I was excited. No athlete will tell you they were nervous before they started. They'll tell you they were excited. And you can do the same thing. And I tell you, it works. So repeat after me. Repeat after me. I'm not nervous. I'm excited. I'm not nervous. I'm excited. And it will work. It will work, guaranteed, because your brain will do as it's told. It's saying, well, all these symptoms are the same. You're the one that's putting a label on it. You're the one that's saying, I'm nervous or I'm excited. So put the excited label on it, and you'll be absolutely amazed what effect it has on you. Now, you've hung around this long, and I really appreciate that. My free gift, 25 quick tips on public speaking, the ebook. If you would like that, and I really would like to pass it on to you, email me at webinars@goodinningsmedia.com.au. Say, please, Graeme, can I have the book? And it will be sent to you, obligation free. There's absolutely no commitment for anything else. I'd love to pass it on to you. It's a book that I put a bit of time into, one of the books I've written, but it's one that I would like to pass on to you free of charge. I said early on that the beauty of public speaking is it's like riding a bike or learning to cook. Anyone can learn to do it. It's up to you, the amount of work that you put into it, whether you want to be good or great. And the wonderful thing is that anyone will tell you that has spoken in public that after you overcome your initial reservations about it, you give a talk, you get the applause, you walk off the stage, and it is one of the most wonderful feelings you could ever have in life. So what I do suggest to you is take every opportunity you can to speak in public. It's no good to get my book or anyone else's book on public speaking. Say, I read it, nothing happened. It's like buying Arnie Schwarzenegger's book on bodybuilding and say, oh, I read it from cover to cover and the muscles are still flimsy and I've got no abs. You've just got to do it. And when it comes to public speaking, there are lots of ways of doing it. There's things like, I mean, the first time you did it was show and tell at school and so on and so forth. You know, at work, if someone's leaving and they need someone to wish the person well in their new career, at a 21st birthday party, say, yeah, look, I'm happy to get up and talk. Because the more times you do it, it's like exercising a muscle. Every time you do it, it'll be better than the last time. And you'll get to a point where you really enjoy it and look forward to the opportunity. And in the personal sector, you'll be able to inform friends, entertain, educate, persuade them, where before you might have been a shrinking violet, a group of people, where are we going on holidays? You stand there and, oh yeah, okay, I'll be in that. Wouldn't it be nice to be the one that puts their hand up and says, no, I think this is what we should do. This will be much more fun. And you can do it. It's a beautiful experience. Public speaking, you can really enjoy it. How else can you have so much fun? That's the free speaking book. Now, any questions about the course, one-on-one phone consult, the free offer, questions in general about public speaking, I'd love to hear from you. Webinars@goodinningsmedia.com.au. That is the number. I thank you so much for your time today. As I said at the start, time is valuable, and to give me 60 minutes of your time, I really appreciate it. I don't think we've gone over time. We'll try not to. That's another thing I never got to. When you're speaking in public, if you've got an allocated time, speak to it. Don't be so rude as to impose yourself on other people who might be speaking after you. So thank you so much for your time again. I'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to you when you make your public speaking debut if you haven't done it already. You have a great day.